We're going to go ahead and get started. We have a full house here in Central States. We also have some people joining us online over Zoom. I'm going to keep my intro short so we can get started here. But if you are watching online and you want to participate in any part of the meeting, I know we're going to go around the room and do intros. One of the first things here on Zoom, just click on Q&A at the bottom of your screen. Send in your intro if you would like, and I will read yours off at the end so everyone knows that you're watching online. And if you have questions at any point, do the same thing. I'll be in the front row ready to raise my hand and interject with whatever you would like to contribute. So I think that's it for me. Almost, I'm wrong. I also just wanted to mention that this is the only club meeting we have as part of the symposium for this year, but we are happy to have other clubs participate in this way. So if you are a member of or an officer with another club that you would like to see live streamed at the Central States next year, let us know. Send us an email and we can talk about getting that sorted out. So that's all for me. I'm going to turn it over for everyone participating in the presentation. I just ask that you stay behind this podium if at all possible. Thank you.
Right. All right. Well, good morning. The EAC group was meeting at the same time, so thanks for being here instead of there. Mark Borkhardt stopped by yesterday, and I said, "Oh, we could simulcast your meeting," and then I remembered, "Oh, the LSCC meeting is at the same time," and since I run the Newman Numismatic portal, somehow we get a little bit more priority. So, but if EAC or any other group wants to meet at a different time, we'll be happy to live stream the meeting. All right. Well, for those at home, we've got a full house here. We got about 30 people in the room, which is awesome. And I was reminded why we come to coin shows this week. There are a lot of coins that don't make it to the auctions, don't make it to dealer fixed price lists. I was sitting with a coin guy at dinner Wednesday night. He says, "Oh, I got this coin for sale." And I told one of our numbers who I knew would be interested in the coin about it. And they got together and made a deal. So that's why we come to coin shows. And I was talking with one of my gold coin dealers yesterday, and he's seen my want list, but showing up in person makes it a little bit more visceral. So he's like, "Yeah, call me Wednesday. One of my, clients is selling a bunch of duplicates. I'm sure I'm going to have something for you." So we'll make that happen next week. So anyway, it's great to be here. Great to see everyone. We're going to start with introductions in the room, and then we'll do our customary group photo. So I'm Len Augsburger, president of Liberty Seated Collectors Club.
I'm John Frost. I'm president of the Barber Coin Collector Society and the education director for the Liberty Seated Club.
We're going to start over there, and everyone in the room, please speak loudly. The microphone is all the way up here at the front.
Well, you don't have to come up.
Just project.
Yes. I'm John Lumsden. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina, and I'm a Green Bay Packer fan. So originally from, I'm sorry. I'm just excited about the draft. With being in Green Bay for the first time, and Green Bay selecting a wide receiver in the first round in the last 20 years. So, anyways, talk about coins now. I collect all the coins from 1793 to date, all the mint marks, just the business strikes, not the proofs, and I collect all the denominations. So there's about 2,500 coins, and I have 8 to go. And I'm also excited that, thanks to these two gentlemen, they put a 1851 seated dollar in my hands yesterday, and I'm very grateful for that, for what they do with the club. So everybody give a short little round of applause.
Congratulations. If I'm Tim Glau, I'm a Liberty Seated member only for a couple of years, but I kind of graduated, I guess, from the Barber Coin Collector Society, and I help with the variety coordination. So if you have varieties related to barbers, we're working on those. And then there's a lot of different collections that maybe we could form, but one that's near and dear to my heart is my XF45 focused barber quarters. And so I tend to do that, and I have multiple variations of that. I look at positional varieties of the mint marks and different oddities like that. So I am from Peoria, Illinois, and I've been with the Barber Coin Collectors Society for quite a while. So really enjoy it and really glad to be here.
Okay, I'm Ken Otto. I live primarily in Houston, Texas, but I have a new place in Colorado Springs, so I'll be splitting my time there. I lead the regional program for the LL Liberty City Club. I'm also in the Barber Club. And the Liberty City Clubs, I'm focused on dollars, half dollars, and quarters. The Barbers primarily quarters.
I'm Chris Sutter from St. Louis, and I've been a member of the club for a long time, but only recently started collecting the series. I collect half John.
Scott Grieve from the Chicago area here, seated dimes, seated half dollars I enjoy, and many of the bust coins as well.
Greg Eberhart, I'm Vice President of the Liberty City Collectors Club. My passion for collecting New Orleans coins rubbed off with John and Lynn, and I talked them into doing the summer seminar, so I'm really looking forward to that. Oh, from Los Alamos, New Mexico.
Tony Alberts from the Chicago area here. I do seeded dime varieties.
Tim Jewison at my shop in Faribault, Minnesota. I've been in the business for 58 years now. And I do collect most all Liberty seeded coinage, half dimes, dimes, quarters, two halves, silver seeded dollars. And I just enjoy the collecting. And today I'm sorry, I don't have anything here to show and tell. One's remembered. And I still stand by my statement on the 1891 old Liberty seated quarter. Where are they?
Rick Berry, Janesville, Minnesota, like mainly barber or seated quarters. I also do half dollars and dollars, and also early dollars and bust half dollars.
Daryl Lowe from New York, New York. Mostly focused on seated half dimes, but I'm getting close to completing my Liberty seated dime collection, thanks to Jerry Ford, and also have a complete Liberty seated quarter collection too.
Dennis Garstein, Kansas City, Missouri, longtime member of the club here and collect seated dollars.
Joe Hacker, Northwest Indiana, and collect seated quarters.
Richard Chunkus from Chicago area. I collect all US coins, but my main interest is dime varieties of seeded quarters.
Bob Hamby, Knoxville, Tennessee, seated dollars.
Bruce Vogel, Indianapolis, bust and seated dollars.
Sharon Spurrier, I'm just here with numismatic.
I'm Andrew Denver. I'm the owner of the 100% Sweet collection for the Barber Quarter, and I'm here to keep my father's memory alive and to keep everything going, keep his legacy going.
Meredith from Baltimore, seated half dollars.
Bill Anderson, Long Island, New York. I collect type, $3, 20-cent pieces, and patterns.
James Taylor, we're not second, but I'm from the Chicagoland area. I collect type and Canadian dollars and cents and Australian pennies and half pennies. I'm kind of interested in this talk about the New Orleans transitional coinage, because there are a lot of really interesting types that came out of that era.
Matthew Mayers from Westchester, New York. I collect all seated denominations.
Good morning, Thomas Duran, president of the ANA. I just lost a good member of our local regional club, and his name was Dick Gaetano, and I called him the Iceman, ICP. I collect everything. So I guess I'm gonna have to pick up on that. And I'm from 84 Pennsylvania, just south of Pittsburgh.
Doug Veal from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and I collect quarters.
Russ Bagan, I'm the COO of Harlan J. Burke Limited here in Chicago. I'm a big collector of everything seated. I can't hone in on one denomination I like, so I've decided a complete typeset, and I figure in the next 40 years I'll be good. So,
Right, and Russ is speaking at 10:30 in this room, so if you're interested, stay around for that.
I'm Jeremy. I collect seated halves. I focus on Carson City seated halves and primarily 74.
Jeff Pritchard, I'm from Seattle, collect seated quarters, and I'm your club secretary. If you have problems with membership, unfortunately, you can't call me.
Dennis Fortier, I'm the founder and president of the Seated Half Society. I've done a lot of work with Liberty Seated and Barbers in the regional program, and obviously I collect seated halves.
John Sourbeer from Bellingham, Washington. I mainly collect seated and barbers.
I'm Steve Harvey, not the game show host, from Grand Haven, Michigan. I've been a member of the club for maybe 5 years. I only collect seated dollars and 1876 20-cent pieces. And if you haven't had a chance, stop and see the 1870S seated dollar that's at table 304 and 5. It is a VF25 and it is a beautiful coin. I wish I could pick that up because that's the only dollar I'm missing.
Right.
We do have a couple from Zoom, so give me just a second to get that back down, and I will read those out. Online, we have Jody Dotson from Arkansas, Mike Perkins from Lake Tahoe, and then slightly longer intros. We've got Mark Balch from Mountain View, California. I collect early bust coins, just completed my 1795 silver and copper date set, and now planning my 1790s typeset. I collect for the history of the period, but the period in U.S. history represented by the Liberty Seated series is fascinating, and I enjoy the series as an observer. And then finally, we have Michael Schmidt from Portland, Indiana. Been a member off and on for a long time. I'm currently lapsed, collect seated half dimes and still need 4 of them, but my main interest is early date large cents by die variety. And we have some others online, but those are the ones who introduce themselves. So.
All right. I've taken our customary group photo from the front of the room. John's going to get one as well. So let's move on here. All right. Greg Johnson has taken over both the publishing and the editing of Gobrick Journal. You should have the March issue by now. We have one here. There were a couple mailing glitches we heard about, so let us know if there's any issues there. The ANA Summer Seminar course planning is underway. That will take place toward the end of June. John, myself, Craig will be speaking on New Orleans coinage, not just seated, but all New Orleans coinage. And we're also this year for the first time sponsoring a YN scholarship at the summer seminar. So the club's had a really great relationship with summer seminar the last few years, so we're really happy to support that. Our dues renewal process this year, not everyone, but a lot of people are using the website, so that's great. That's great to see. And that just really simplifies things for everyone. If you haven't tried out the website, give it a shot. And you can get your membership status, and John will be talking a little bit about that in a minute. We've got our taxes done for 2024. So thanks to John Lunston and Jeff Pritchard for working through that. I don't know about you, but I hate doing taxes. It's like the worst. So thank these guys for taking care of that for us. Just one of these things that happens underneath the scenes that as members you might not never see, but keeps the club going. So much appreciated. Paul Kluth continues to crank out the e-Gobrecht every month. We've had a series of themed issues this year: Valentine's Day,
April Fools,
St. Patrick's, April Fools. I'm not sure what we're doing for May. Mother's Day? We'll see. We can talk about my mom's favorite Liberty seated coins. Probably be a short list. But, okay. All right.
Have Ron talk now about the website.
Oh, sure. Yeah. John, you want to talk about the website?
Do you want the 5-minute version or the
minutes?
couple minutes?
Yeah,
Okay.
let me pull up the website on
Okay.
here.
So I'm just gonna primarily be talking through this. Okay. Because again, we're gonna create a series of instructional videos. How do you register online? How do you renew your dues online? What happens if you have problems with your password? You know, how do you, how can you contact or get your password reset? You know, it's all pretty straightforward, but I don't have time to show you all the aspects of everything today. Just be aware of some of the main areas of the screen. So right here, up here, after you log in, it tells you what your name is and what your membership number is. So if those of you are like me, who always forget their membership number, it's right there. And then it also tells you when your dues are paid through. So this is Len's dues. He logged in, and so his dues are paid through 2027. And if you want to renew, you just click the button here, and then you can pick, you know, 1, 2, 3, 5-year renewals. So it's just very straightforward. And then what it does is it goes through PayPal, and it just if you have a PayPal account, you can use a credit card, and you know, you can pay your dues with a credit card, or you can pay through ACH through your bank account. You know, if your bank account's set up with PayPal. So again, all you have to do is you know, follow the prompts, and it renews your dues. And you can check your PayPal account and see that, you know, everything has gone through, and you've got a copy of your payment. Unlike the old manual process where you never heard, you know, we had 800 members sending us checks. Some checks were lost. Some checks took 6 months to process. This whole process takes minutes. You go through, follow the prompts, pick what you want to renew, and then you get instant confirmation here that your dues are updated, you know, for 1, 3, 5, whatever you pick. And so it's a very simple process. It's all automated. We're one of the few groups, coin collecting groups in the country that have automated payments. So we think this is the future, and this is the way young people pay. They all pay online. They don't send checks. They don't even know how to write checks, you know? So, you know, again, we're just trying to make it easy for us, easy for our members to sign up, because, you know, if you're a new member, it's very easy to sign up through the website. And instead of us putting all the paper transactions and the cash and everything, I mean, young people don't even use cash anymore. You know, they don't use cash. You know, they use their debit card. They use their credit card. Okay. The whole purpose of this website, the end game is to attract young people. So we have older people in this room. You know, let's face it, we're successful. We're older. We're baby boomers, and so what we want to do is we want to attract the next generation. So this is going to attract the next generation. This is going to attract the YNs. And so that's why we set it up. We set it up to attract the YNs. And the club has made an investment in time and money to make sure that we keep perpetuating the club. It's been 50 years, but we want to go another 50 years. So we have to attract the YNs. And through this technology, even though, you know, some of you are very familiar, I write a lot of checks. You know, I spend all day writing checks and going to banks. This is going to attract the YNs. And another feature besides the payment is we have the ability of, you know, one of the great things is the Goldberg Journal. I mean, it's fantastic. I love it. I love reading articles every month. It costs a lot to make. You know, we charge $30 and we spend $30 printing the Goldberg Journal and mailing it to our members. You know, it's our biggest cost. You know, it's our only cost because everything else is volunteer. You know, none of our volunteers make a dime. So really, you know, we're going to continue printing and mailing Goldberg Journal because that's what we have. But we also have the ability to put all those same articles online. And unlike the collective volumes where you have to go through and search, well, which volume is this article in? And, how do I remember where I can find things about seated quarters or things like that? In this, you pick quarters, and then you pick the denomination. So the first screen gives you the denomination. The second screen gives you, what topic are you looking for? Are you looking for date and mint mark? Are you looking for a specific date and mint mark? Are you looking by author? Are you looking for a picture of somebody's collection that was published in a prior journal, maybe 20, 30 years ago? You want to see Wayne Bruner's, or you want to see Greg Johnson's quarter collection, so you can search for all of that very easily, follow the prompts, and it drills down to exactly which article you want to see. Here's Greg Johnson's quarter of the month article that was published. I don't know what the year was, but
2021.
21, yeah, right up here, November 21. And so, again, just simple drill down things that even old people like myself can use. You don't have to know Google search. You don't have to know all the AI programs that are out there that all the young kids are using. All you have to do is drill down to the menu and see, follow the prompts. The whole design of this is easy to use, easy. And so you follow the prompts, you pick the denomination by picture, and then you pick the topic, and then you drill down to the prompts. So it's very easy. And we've got a lot of the content of the old system on the site. We've got the training videos. So all the stuff that was on the old site is now on the new site. And if it isn't, we're in the process of moving over to the.
We don't have any articles about the $1851.
Okay.
So you can write one.
We've got half of the articles written, and again, it's a labor-intensive process to cross-reference with meta tags. I did, first 1,000 articles. If there's somebody that wants to step up and help me do the next 1,000 articles, that would be great. Otherwise, we'll get the next 1,000 articles in, and keep updating the site. But about 50% of 50 years worth of publications, pretty darn good head start. And so it's all there. It's all available for YNs, for existing members. Just log in. And so we really think that the website will attract younger members. And so that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I've gone over my time. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, John. There we go. All right. All right, let's move on. Slideshow mode. Oh. Slideshow. Here I go.
All right. So as Len said, the new journal came out in March. Jim Maycor, as always, did our cover, and this, not surprisingly, features the New Orleans Mint. It's our theme for the year. Reminder that the deadline for the summer issue is June the 1st. And if you've got a topic you are very interested in, odds are other people in the club will be interested in it. So please write it up and send it to Greg through the website, our mailing address, lscc@lsccweb.org. And let's see. And as Len said, Paul Kluth is, having a themed set of issues this year, and we're waiting to see what he chooses for May. So for the Barber Club, as Len said, there have been some mailing challenges. The BCCS, because our secretary treasurer is in Illinois, Central Illinois, the mail has been really screwed up. And we had a number of our members who renewed and said, I sent my check in January, you haven't cashed it yet. And apparently there have been some severe problems in St. Louis, but especially in Louisville. Apparently they found sacks and sacks of mail that have been sitting around for weeks and even months. And so I have a feeling some of the renewal checks and things are sitting in Louisville, and it will take some time to clear the system. This year's cover theme for the BCCS journal are those
impossible to find collector grade circulated barbers, the ones you just never ever see. And so that's the artwork I did for this issue. And you can see Charles Barber in the lower left there. Again, if you are not a subscriber, if not a member, 4 of these per year get mailed to your house. Hopefully. Yeah. As we mentioned, we've got a new class. This is the first time it's being offered, and we're really excited about it. It's session 1 of the ANA Summer Seminar. YNs of all ages from 10 to 80. And the 3 of us are the instructors. This really covers, this isn't the Liberty Seated class or a barber class. This is covering the whole gamut, including the history of the mint until it closed, half dimes through double eagles, the struggles of the environment and the getting started and the trouble getting dies, and the complicated history is going to be weaved throughout this class. So I think it's going to be really exciting. We're going to talk about the different New Orleans type coins, over 40 of them, and some, like all of our other classes, hands-on handling of coins. We're going to have a couple of attribution exercises, so it should be a lot of fun. So we hope to see you there. The shameless plug, I have 2 mini seminars the same week. They're both sold out. So it's on patterns and on US error coins. So it's going to be a fun week. If you've never been to summer seminar, you ought to give it a try. It's from the moment you wake up in the morning until you can't stay awake anymore at night. It's just coins, coins, coins. And it's a great experience. Ken is going to go through our regional schedule.
Okay. Well, we're in the middle of the year. Of course, the Liberty Seated Club and the Barber Club have a very active regional program. Just in a week, I guess a week or so, would it be in Norwich, Connecticut for the PVCC annual show. Lynn will host a breakfast meeting at the Baltimore show. We won't have a table there, but that's coming up in June. Dennis and I will be at the Greater Cincinnati Numismatic Expo in July. The Bay State show, like John and Joe will be there. And then we'll all converge on Oklahoma City for the ANA in August and enjoy Oklahoma weather during the nice summer season there. We'll have an annual meeting, of course, for both clubs at that show. So please attend.
All right, Greg.
Okay.
Where are the arrows?
It's the arrows.
Okay. All right. Well, I became, more than 30 years ago, I was working on a typeset, one of many that I did through the years, collecting many different coins. And I decided I couldn't afford the early issues in the typeset at that time. So I thought, maybe I ought to expand to the other mints and include each mint. And you look at the price list in the red book, and it's like, yeah, look, I can get all those coins, not a problem. And then it came the possibility of, can I find them? And they just were not available. And especially the New Orleans coins surprised me with their rarity. And with finding them at high grade was really tough. But I had joined the Liberty Seated Collectors Club and got to know the people that were starting to write the books on seated coinage. Most other coins, there's already been a lot of studies done on them, but it was an unknown territory in the early 90s for seated coins. So I started going to the shows, I started going to the meetings, I started meeting these people that were writing the books, and it was, wow, they were willing to share information, which was really fun for me. And there was still the opportunity, there still is the opportunity of finding different varieties. But what caught my attention was the New Orleans mint coins. I mean, these coins started with a bus coin and the no stars, half dimes, and dimes. went all the way through, I guess I would call the 1909 $5 eagle Art Nouveau sort of style. So it went through a major part of the 19th century. But trying to find some of the New Orleans coins was became challenging. And as I studied them more and more, I realized that there was just so many things that happened in New Orleans that didn't happen at Philadelphia or has happened at any of the other mints in the U.S. And Mark, why was New Orleans chosen as a mint? Well, for one thing, of course, because the law was signed, but New Orleans really was in the early years of exploring the West. New Orleans was really the gateway to the West. Now, I grew up near St. Louis, so I grew up believing that St. Louis was the gateway to the West, and I still agree with that to some level. But really, it started in New Orleans, and why did it start there? Well, it's because all this gold and silver were coming into the country, and a lot of products were going out. So it was actually a major port in the early part of the 19th century. Dahlonega and Charlotte, they established mints there, but that was to mint the gold, locally mined gold in coins. So relatively, they were small mints compared to it. But the reason they were all started was because they wanted to transporting the bullion to the Philadelphia mint was quite a challenge. You know, there's examples of things like the SS Central America, and in earlier years the Spanish galleons. But what made New Orleans pop? What made it a big city? This is it. This is our mechanized transportation in the early 19th century. There wasn't roads, there wasn't cars, there wasn't railroads. Further north, it was still it was very challenging to go across the Midwest. So it was the rivers. It was the Mississippi River, the Ohio, the Missouri. It was the major access to the country, and of course, all of South America. It's much closer to there, bringing the gold and silver from South America. Oh my God. Okay, I didn't know this was in here. Somebody's been messing with my presentation. Thanks, John. Okay, so how big was New Orleans in the 1840 census? Well, everybody knows what the largest city was in 1840, right? It's New York. How about the second largest city? Baltimore, at least according to the census. I'm just going to stick with their numbers. And then how about the third largest city? New Orleans was the third largest city, and just barely. It was almost the second largest city in the country in 1840. And then after that came Philadelphia and Boston. And then the only other city that was sort of west and south was Cincinnati with 46,000. But they're located on the Ohio River, which is also accessible with some efforts from New Orleans. And that's our mechanized advanced technology in the 1830s. About 1811, the steamships started. And by the 1820s, there were hundreds of ships. And by the 1830s, when the mint was producing thousands of ships. So it was the major source of transportation.
All of those are port cities.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's amazing that New Orleans is theoretically, the city count is only about 3 times higher than that right now. But of course, there's the suburban areas in all these cities. So what happened in the early years of the mint? Well, in 1838, they produced a few half dimes, a few dimes, and a few proof half dollars. Not many coins were produced. 1839, they added more half dollars and quarter eagles. And here I make my comment about rotated reverses. I don't know. I think they're quite interesting, and they're very common in New Orleans coins. And I don't consider them heirs. I just think they're another interesting mintage that happened while they weren't paying that much attention. They were trying to get coins out. The problem was there were accusations of corruption, and there were thefts and yellow fever deaths, like in the early years of the U.S. mint. at least 2 people died that worked at the mint in 1839. But by 1840, that really became the watershed year. Quarters and half eagles were added, and coins were produced with whatever dies were available. They didn't care. They had pressure on them to produce coinage from all those precious metals coming into the country, and there was a huge need for coins. I mean, there was Spanish American coins that were circulating, but there was really a need for U.S. coinage because it wasn't like it was all coming into New Orleans. It was mostly flowing out.
Question.
Yes.
At the time of that, in that era, who was the New Orleans mint superintendent at the time? Does one know?
Yeah, we do know, but can I come up with a name? Anybody remember the name? I don't, but I'll tell you who does matter here in a moment. Rufus Tyler. Rufus Tyler was the first coiner, the chief coiner at the mint. He had come from the Philadelphia Mint. He was quite experienced, basically an engineer. And he was appointed in March 22nd, 1837. Sadly, he died 2 years later from yellow fever. So they lost their chief coiner. Who did they pick for the new chief coiner? His brother, Philos Tyler. Philos is only 22 years old, but apparently spent a lot of time at the mint learning about how to produce coins from his brother. And they appointed him to replace Rufus in 1839. So an inexperienced person became the chief coiner at New Orleans. But they were quite interesting. They had to produce coins. Both brothers, they were quite pragmatic about their work. Rufus produced coins with outdated dies in his short time as chief coiner. A lot of the coins that are dated 1838 were minted in 1839, and there's multiple examples of this happening. How can you track it? You really can't. I mean, you can look at a date on a coin, 1838. That probably means it was minted in 1838 or later. Rarely, I guess there's a few examples where coins were minted a bit before the year. But Philos took it a step further. He started mixing old dies with new dies. Yeah, they were desperate they had a lot of precious metals to produce into coins. So he used old dies with new dies.
Yeah, but didn't the dies stem from Philadelphia or not?
Well, they came from Philadelphia, and Philadelphia didn't really like giving dies to even though the New Orleans Mint worked for the Patterson as the superintendent of the mint. Apparently, there was still some level of jealousy. He wanted his Philadelphia mint to be the star mint, and New Orleans being successful wasn't really. He would have closed it down apparently if he was able to do that, but he wasn't. So what did they do? Well, here's what happened. In 1838, Philadelphia produced more than $2 million worth of silver coinage. New Orleans, $50,000 worth. 1839, Philadelphia still produced basically $1 million of silver coinage, but New Orleans had jumped 5 times to 250,000. 1840, they're almost comparable. Philadelphia, 968,000, New Orleans, 698,000. And by 1841, actually, New Orleans produced more silver coinage than Philadelphia did. And when I say produce more coinage, I'm looking at the dates. As to actually what was manufactured, there's various interpretations of the records. And what dates the coins were when they were manufactured, not always clear. So Philos, well, he continued to work at the mint until 1847, often mixing dies between years, because he was conserving everything possible. And this ultimately caused the production of 6 transitional die marriages. And so what do I consider a transitional die marriage? It's an old die mixed with a new die. And these
That would be called what? Maybe a mule?
Oh, I don't like that term. Because it implies that it was unintentional, and it was fully intentional. There's no doubt about that. He knew what he was doing when he was mixing these dyes. So calling a mule sort of degrades what it really is, in my opinion.
Yeah, but wouldn't the Philadelphia Mint have a hold on or an oversee of such?
Oh, you got to be kidding! It takes months to go back and forth. I got on the phone and called them. You know. No, I don't. I mean, they did theoretically, but Philadelphia made all these. I mean, excuse me, New Orleans made their decisions. Philadelphia. They communicated by letter. There's lots of letters that go between the mint.
All they had was letters,
mints.
but it was at least 7 days
Yeah,
to do a letter one way.
I'm surprised it was that fast.
You know, the interesting thing during that time, 1838, 1839, was the time when there was a transition to a new type
Right.
of coin.
Which is why
all those transitions were going on at the same time, as well as all of a sudden now the New Orleans Mint was starting off brand new.
But this didn't happen in Philadelphia. Philadelphia didn't let it happen. But New Orleans wanted to produce coins. They needed dies. Philadelphia could get their dies. They didn't have a problem. So they used them all. And you're right. It's when they were going from an older design to new design in pretty much every denomination. So these don't happen anywhere else. So it's like I said, it's transitional coins. The terms have been used quite loosely. There's the stateless half dimes and dimes that were produced in 1859 and 1860, with a starred obverse and the cornucopia, the fruits and vegetables on the reverse of those. But most people think those were manufactured for collectors, and they were collectible items that the mint was marketing.
Does that include the hollow stars 1859 half dime?
Well, it could. It depends. It's not, that wouldn't be a transitional necessarily. It was, most people think that was an experimental design, I believe, and found out it's.
I think I've only seen one of them.
I'm not as familiar with the Philadelphia issues. Okay, so I just went with a simple definition for a transitional coin. It melds or mixes an old design with a new design. And here's the half dime that happened. This half dime has a no drapery obverse, which is an old design, mixed with, in this case, for half dimes, it's an open bud reverse. So the new design is on the reverse on the 1840 transitional coin. These are quite scarce. And the two things I'd point out on the reverse on the half dimes and dimes, where the lettering is larger, and in this case, the newer design has the open buds, as the dime works the same way. But the difference with the dime is they did it the opposite. They used an old reverse on the dimes and a new reverse on the old reverse and the new obverse on the 1841 transitional dimes. This reverse on this coin was used for 1840 coins, and it was reused with an 1841 dime, 1841 obverse, excuse me. A similar thing happened with the small bud. Okay, so let me go back a minute. This is the large O reverse, which makes it really easy to identify. It's the only one that exists in 1841. There's a large O, the only large O reverse. So if you got a large O on your reverse of the 1841 dime, you've got a transitional dime. The small O transitional dime, if you look at you can see the lettering's relatively small compared to the other reverse. And you can also see here, these are the closed buds. So unlike the half dimes where they're open buds on the transitional coin and an old reverse, the dimes are an old reverse with closed buds with a with drapery design on the obverse. There is one other thing to tell these dimes apart. If you look at the shield point on these two dimes here, on one of them it basically points down at the front of the one, the flag on the one, and the other one is to the left of the flag on the one. Well, the one above, the only one where it points to the left side of the one is on the transitional coins. For some reason, the die used for those two marriages used this slightly different obverse die, which was the with drapery die. And the subsequent ones with other dies where the shield points further left. The quarters. Well, the quarters are interesting. The quarter has the with drapery, the new obverse, and on the reverse is the reverse from the 1840 no drapery quarters. So how do you know it's a no drapery reverse? Well, first of all, the lettering's a bit smaller. The eagle's a little more delicate, so to speak. There's re-engraved denticles up here too on the reverse die. And I don't know how well this is going to show in the image, but there's a crack from the N in United over to the eagle. Yeah, and you can see that on one of the 1840 no drapery reverses. So that crack develops as it's in a later die stage. So this clearly was a die that had been used for an 1840 quarter, no drapery quarter. And it was being used for the with drapery quarter also. So this is new obverse with an old reverse. Perhaps the most interesting one is the 1840 WB4 and WB12 half dollars. These two $50 die marriages, they were minted at New Orleans without a mint mark. There is no other coin, well, there is one. There is basically no other coin that was minted without a mint mark, or at least that anybody is aware of or has been able to show. Now, you can say the 1922 plain Lincoln cent had no mint mark, but it really did. It's just a filled die. It just didn't stamp. It didn't show up on the mint underneath the date. There was one other one, the 1925 Fort Vancouver Centennial half. It was minted without a mint mark in San Francisco. Now, they've known this since. This is in the Red Book from 1947, still in there. So this is not an unusual discovery, but this discovery, Randy Wiley and Bill Boogert discovered that these two $50 were manufactured at the New Orleans Mint. And how did they discover it? Well, they looked at the obverse dies and they matched the obverse dies to coins that were minted with reverses that had mint marks on them. Here's an example of the WB4. This is a relatively common die marriage, but quite popular. And I refer to it as the medium letter reverse, because how do you pick out a coin and say, well, it doesn't have a mint mark and know it was made in New Orleans still? Well, that's sort of hard unless you already have other information. The other information is it's dated 1840. It has a robust eagle, and the medium letters reverse are distinctively larger than the other 1840 coins that were manufactured. And there are ways to tell the obverses apart, but the first one, the WB4, if you can see this, there's little specks of raised silver in the gown of Liberty, and that's because of the rust that had appeared on the die. And when they manufactured them, you end up with these raised areas. The other variety, the WB12, here's an example of the WB12. If you look at it, it doesn't have those rust spots, but it does have some little slanted lines underneath the foot. But telling them apart by the obverse dies is if you want to distinguish between the 4 and the 12, you can do that by the obverse. But you can also do it by the reverse. But the reverse was the same die on both die marriages. On the WB4, which is on the left here, there is not a big die crack on United, and the WB12 on the right-hand side, there is a big die crack at the top of United. And the other thing is the tail feathers. The WB4 on the left has tail feathers. The WB4 on the right does not have tail feathers. So these are pretty easy to tell apart. You can tell the die was polished on the one on the right when it was reused, because you can see there's lots of cracks on there. And some people have said, well, this is a reverse of 1839. Well, it isn't, because this die was never used. It was unused die they had stored away in the vaults in New Orleans. And when they needed a $50 die, they probably pulled this out, started manufacturing $50 using this die. Okay, so as I said, these transitional coins were manufactured because they had a problem with, they didn't have enough dies. But there were other ones that were manufactured too. And interestingly enough, in recent years, we've discovered that this is a very, very well-known variety, the 1839 large O half dime. And if you look at the bottom of the wreath, there's a die crack that goes to the rim. And I'm going to step over here and point it out. Right down through here, this die crack. There are two 1840 half dimes that were manufactured before this 1839 was made, based on this progression of this die. So I sort of consider it an honorary transitional coin, even though it's not transitional. It has a with drapery, no drapery obverse, paired with the old reverse, the old closed bud reverse. How many other coins happened that we can't trace? So how many other dies were used by Philos in those early years? He could have, in 1840, he could have been using multiple pairs of 1839 dies that you can't track with, because he used because he used the original pairing or something that was only used in 1839. So it still looks like an 1839 dime, but it was manufactured in 1840 or 1841. And this continued through 1847. There was a number of different matching dies that Philos used to produce coins. He left in 1847, and he went back to, I believe, Connecticut. And apparently he was instrumental in starting Smith & Wesson, one of the gun companies in Connecticut. So quite a talented person. And I just to me, it's just all these things that happened through. This was one of the early things that attracted me to New Orleans coins. But there's so many other things if you go off in further years. Of course, 1861 with the transition to other governments in New Orleans, and the manufacturing of $50 and apparently $20 gold pieces, and there's some guesses as to which ones were produced by the U.S. Mint and which ones were produced by either the Confederate States or the state of Louisiana. And then, of course, they got shut down for 18 years until, excuse me, I'm getting a little dry here, 1879, when there was a demand for producing bullion coins, Morgan dollars, through the Sherman Act. Sherman Act? Bland Allison. Thank you. Anyhow, I had no idea when I first started collecting New Orleans coins that I was going to spend 30 years studying the various coins in the history of this mint. So it still intrigues me. Yes. Yes, I think there might still be a couple vacancies in there. But we'd be glad to have you. Some of the people in here are going, I know, and there's probably people in here that know more about some components of the New Orleans Mint than I do, but I'm always learning, and I appreciate seeing friends and new acquaintances. Thank you. Oh, yeah.
Where were the dies made?
In Philadelphia.
Yeah, so they all had to get down there somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was hard, and they didn't really want to ship them out either.
Right.
And I believe they ship them not annealed, and they anneal them when they get to the mint, so nobody can use them. Theoretically, couldn't use them on the way there.
And then they rusted when they were there.
Yeah, some of them did. Yes, dealing with yellow fever and everything else.
Yeah. On the 40 no bid mark, half dollar. The New Orleans Mint had to make their own collar dies, and those collar dies were smaller than Pennsylvania. So that was another way that they were able to tell that was actually a New Orleans issue.
I think the other thing to kind of note with all that stuff is, you know, the dies were shipped from Philadelphia, but it was on the New Orleans Mint to do the actual punching of like the mint marks and things,
Right.
which is why you have a no mint mark. You know, why was there a no mint mark reverse in the Philadelphia Mint? Well, because the mint mark was on the obverse, and they didn't think.
I don't think they even thought about it. It was produce the coins and get them out there.
Yeah.
There was a lot of pressure, I think.
Just a reminder, anyone online, you can send in questions with the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. Carry on.
Do we know why they didn't produce dollars until 46?
I don't think so. I don't think we do know. I know they had a hard time producing the half dollars in 1839. So maybe it was just not the ability to do a large coin like that.
Kind of the best thing about the New Orleans Mint is that it's in New Orleans. And if you haven't been down to see it, they have a beautiful exhibit, and the city's fantastic just by itself.
Yeah, yeah.
You've been to the Mint and seen
Yeah, I enjoy going there and seeing where they did this. And you know, I knew nothing about New Orleans coins when I started collecting. Excuse me, I didn't know anything about New Orleans coins.
How did the New Orleans Mint come about in the first place?
Well, it was this act that was signed by Jackson in 1835, but there's very strong push by especially one senator from Louisiana, because there was so much bullion there and so few circulating coins. There was 3 times as much bullion going into New Orleans as there was in any other port in the country. Yeah.
Another interesting thing that at least I've noticed when I was collecting type was that these early quarters sometimes have some pretty funky colors to them, which I later learned was as a result of a cache that was found in a building.
Oh, yeah.
And while some people were doing excavations, they uncovered this cache, and then all of a sudden these quarters, 1840, 1839 quarters, all of a sudden were all over the ground. People were just scooping them up.
Yeah, 40 O's and 41 O's, a bunch of foreign coins, a couple boxes worth of
I've got one
silver.
down in the case right now. Actually, had one come across one of the 41 notes, the double die.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah, that's where a lot of the double dice came from.
Yeah, it seems like most of them came out of that hoard.
I had a beautiful 1840 no drapery quarter, and sadly, I made the decision to sell it. I wish I still had it. You know, there's these various regrets that happen. Yes.
From online, would you recommend any particular books on the New Orleans Mint?
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, definitely. Doug Winter for gold coins. He covers all. He wrote one specifically on the New Orleans Mint. Bill Boogert wrote 2 volumes on half-dollar die varieties from the New Orleans Mint. Of course, Jerry Fortin has his dimes online, and Clint Cummins is also has an on-site website where you can go look at the half dimes, and you can access all these, especially if you become a member of the Liberty Seated Collectors Club. They'll tell you about all the different books. Okay, yeah.
Okay, I have one last one from online I just want to talk about. There's someone in here that says, Craig, I would love to talk with you further about the 1861 half dollar. So to that person, can you just go like to the contact us form on the symposium website, send us a message, and I'll forward it along to Craig.
Okay.
Thank you.
Maybe he's the guy who was asking me other questions about it. He was asking way more than I knew about 61 halves.
Okay, and we're going to wrap up with some comments from Andrew Renberg on the 100% Swede collection of barber quarters that his father put together, and we unfortunately lost his father last year. So Andrew, just a few words.
Yep. Oh, sorry for the voice. Kids are cesspools. This is my dad's barber quarter collection. 26 years. He, I would say, professionally started collecting these coins. I have been through thick and thin, trying to find these coins. It meant so much to me. I have it tattooed on my shoulder with Dad under it, the 1901S. He even gave him a $15,000 loan so he can even get the coin. So he's a really special man to me. He spent all day, every day, just going through eBay and just looking at auctions and doing everything that he can try to do and find them. Liz Coggin, a great person. She found a lot of coins for him and he's forever grateful. And he always talked about, when I die, I want you to put it on display with your hat backwards and, and just show him off. And that's exactly what I'm doing. And I'm going to have his legacy keep living on. He also has a 20-cent piece, and that's number 2. And I'm going to try to get that to be number 1. And also he has a Walking Liberty halves collection, and I'm going to try to get that up to number 1 as well. I'm going to keep the legacy moving. And if anyone has an 1856 Flying Eagle, an AU-58, call me. And yeah, my dad, that's what he loved to do. He was coins, stamps, sports, and he put everything together, and we talked for hours and hours and hours about coins downstairs in the basement, and we just hung out, lived together, and he was my best friend. So, and yeah, I just want to keep everything moving forward and moving on. And if any questions, and if anyone wants to see them, they're right on the table, and hope everyone gets a good look at them. So other than that, yeah, thank you.
So reminder, we've got our display of New Orleans coins and plus some other seeded dollars at our booth 2410, and the complete 100% Swede collection is on display there. And people were drooling over those coins yesterday. So if you haven't drooled on them yet, come on down the table to 2410. That is it.
Thank you very much. Another excellent Central States meeting, and hope to see everyone here next year as well.
Come back at 10:30 for Russ Vegas talk on an introduction to U.S. exonumia.